Celtics fans are worried about this news with Jayson Tatum as he endured an injury Game 1 against the Orlando Magic. So what does this look like going forward for Jayson Tatum, and how will this play out throughout the series and as it continues on through the playoffs as the Boston Celtics are looking to repeat as NBA champions? Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video here on Celtics Digest. I am Patrick Billings, and before we get into anything, guys, if you're loving all the content here we're dropping here on Celtics Digest, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. A lot of you guys that are watching are not subscribed, so please go ahead and do that if you're loving what we're dropping here. Bruce and I are constantly giving some content, especially with the Celtics making a playoff run and a lot of news coming on with the Orlando Magic series as the Boston Celtics look at some injury updates with Jayson Tatum, and we got one today from Shams Charania. We all know that Jayson Tatum had a little bit of an injury with his wrist as KCP went up to block his dunk, and Tatum took a hard fall, falling on that wrist, and it did not look so good from the start. But Jayson Tatum was able to finish out that game, getting a couple of buckets. But now we look ahead to the game tomorrow being Wednesday night, as the Celtics had a couple days off before this game, so he got some extra rest. But we had some news today as he is now listed as doubtful. Jayson Tatum wrist is listed as doubtful for Game 2 versus the Orlando Magic as Boston leads the series 1-0. So what does this look like for the Boston Celtics? Well, if we look here from Shams Charania and a tweet from Dr. Evan Jeffries, just a little screenshot here with Shams, who kind of got into the injury and what happened with the MRI, as he did take an MRI and things came up clean. So it seems to just be a bone bruise, which can just linger around and just have some day-to-day kind of, hurting, I guess you could say, for the wrist for Jayson Tatum. But this is something that the Celtics have to be very cautious about, as he has had injuries with his wrist in the past, especially with this one being his shooting hand, as pain tolerance will be an issue, again, day to day, and will have difficulty with shooting / ball handling. We saw that on his 2 free throw attempts. When he got fouled, he did come back on the court to shoot those free throws, just in case if he was able to come back into the game, not knowing the severity, he's allowed to stay in the game, because if he left and did not take those free throws, he is not allowed back in the game. So that was a good save for Celtics fans, kind of seeing him be able to play and get those shots off, but he did miss both, but he did come down and make a 3 and 2 other buckets as well. But as it says as well, this can linger, and this is not something that you want to see for Boston Celtics fans, as Jayson Tatum is not somebody who likes to miss games. So the fact that he could miss a playoff game, something that he has never done in his career. We saw him get injured in the Game 7 against the Miami Heat with that ankle injury, but he really doesn't get injured a lot. He did have a little bit of a knee bone bruise to end the season, so he kind of got to sit down and relax and kind of fix on that as well. But we know how Jayson Tatum is. He's more of an Iron Man, as we've seen in the league, one of the stars that is never really sitting out, and we never are used to this for Jayson Tatum. So hopefully that he is able to take this game and play a little bit, because it is a playoff game. But if he does rest, he does have until Friday to get a couple extra days to get some ice on that and kind of get things fixed up for the Boston Celtics. And if we see here, Bobby Manning also talked about it. Tatum downplayed the injury after Game 1. This is something that Bruce and I talked about in the last video, as this is something that the Celtics kind of do. Joe Mazzulla does not like to play his cards telling people what is going on the insides, because it gives them a little bit of a tell. The Magic are not a team that you want to let know what's going on, especially with all the weapons that the Celtics have, so they could kind of prepare earlier if he's not playing. So he kind of wanted to downplay it and really just keep it to himself, which I totally respect, and I think that that's definitely a winning mentality if you think so for the Boston Celtics. You don't want to really be giving other teams what's going on. So as we continue this quote here, but he was even quieter and shorter than usual. Could tell he wasn't thrilled or had some concern about it. I think this injury is less about how long will it hold him out. It's more about how it impacts him when he plays. And we know that Jayson Tatum, again, like I said, with that wrist injury, it did bother him in a couple playoffs ago, and he was not playing his best. And a lot of people kind of thought that he was making an excuse for his play, but Jayson Tatum is able to step up in many other ways as we know that as a defender and a rebounder and a passer, as we saw him step up his game in those two categories this year, especially if we look back at some of his stats as well. Tatum, last game, the Celtics won game 1 by a score of 103-86, as Tatum recorded 17 points, 14 rebounds, and 4 assists in a long 40 minutes for Jayson Tatum. So he still was able to hang in there and play a lot of that fourth quarter after that injury, but when the lead started to grow, there was no need for him to be in that game no longer. But Jayson Tatum, of course, able to grab rebounds and do other things on the court like we've seen him do all year long, as he is an all-NBA first-team type of player. But you know Jayson Tatum, he really does want to play in these games, and if he's going to be a little bit of a non-threat on offense, if that wrist is really bothering him and he does play, I think we'll see him step up more on the defensive side and as a passer and play as more of a decoy. This is something that I talked about with Jaylen Brown as well, who has been able to look pretty decent, actually. Bruce and I talk about a lot how Jaylen Brown being 85% is where we want to be. We know he's not going to be at 100%, but I think the same for Jayson Tatum as well. The threat of having him on the court is huge for the Celtics, regardless of how well he could play on the offensive end. But just knowing that he's there as an option, the Magic still have to play like he is playing 100%, because you can't leave a guy like him wide open, but other guys are consistently going to be able to step up. But if Jayson Tatum is not in this game, we have to look ahead at what the Celtics are going to bring out on the court and who is going to have to step up for the Boston Celtics. And that's guys like Derrick White, who definitely stepped up last game with a 30-point performance. 3-0 the Celtics are when he scores 30-plus points in a playoff game. So that's a good sight to see if you're a Celtics fan. But another thing to look at, too, is Kristaps Porziņģis not really playing well offensively at the start of this series, and there's a lot of games to go, so expect him to step up as well. And I think another name to keep an eye out for is someone who would start in his place, being Al Horford. Definitely when that injury happened, he was not very happy with KCP as they were exchanging a couple of words. I don't think they were really complimenting each other much, but Al Horford usually steps up in games like this, and when you get that guy mad, I don't think that's somebody you really want to get mad, because he will step up on offense, and I think it will start off getting hot in the beginning of the game, but he's definitely a pretty good replacement for Jayson Tatum, as we've seen in the playoffs, constantly step up and be that star stopper and hit a lot of open threes and get a lot of tough buckets as well. So I think a lot of guys like that are going to have to step up, but Jayson Tatum, if he does not play, I don't think the Celtics fans have to be too worried, but I think just being a little bit worried, looking ahead at what this wrist injury could look like, can be worrisome. But for now, if you give Jayson Tatum that rest, I think it'll definitely benefit him throughout the rest of the playoffs. But guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think Jayson Tatum's going to play? And how do you think this is affecting the Celtics offense going forward in the playoffs, if this is going to be a lingering thing as playoffs continue? But guys, if you like this video, drop a like below. And thank you guys for all the support. I'll see you in the next one. And let's go Boston Celtics.